All right, we are ready for step 2 of our book study. Today we're talking about having students speak in complete sentences. So that's going to be our topic. But before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and share my screen. And I had a couple of questions about kind of the progression of what we're going to be doing. So let me get to that screen and I'll share that with you real quick. So let's see here, share. All right. So if you go into the Wakelet, here's how we've got this organized for our book study. We had our kickoff. Everything that we presented that day and all of the resources are available in that column. So I have a link. I even have a link to the recording if you want to go back and watch it again. The chat. So anything that was said in the chat is there. There's the chat from the second session, the independent reading that we did that day, and then some of the other activities or resources that I've provided for you. Session 2 is today. It's going to be chapter 2. So there's your calendar to sign up, our topic, our note taker, the slides for today, the independent reading in case you don't yet have your book, and then some video to watch afterwards if you would, so that you can get an idea of what it looks like in a classroom. So that's how this is set up. One thing about Wakelet, I will tell you, if you go all the way to the right and scroll down, that's what gives you the bar that takes you across. So session 2, we have the classroom visits and calendar there. Then we'll go to session 3, and that's going to be chapter 3, which is randomize and rotate when calling on students. Classroom visits for that one. Session 4, use total response, and so forth going across. So as you scroll across, it will be 1 month and each session. So that will get you there. This same Zoom link that you used today will be the link that we'll use for all book studies. So I won't have to give you a new link. Just at your designated time, click on that and you will be able to join us. So that's how we're going to do that. Is there a question? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the slides here and we'll start with step 2. Again, this is having students speak in complete sentences. Again, there is the link to your Wakelet, signing up for the book discussions going forward, and then signing up for your classroom visits. All right, so for the beginning of our session, what I'd like for you to do, if you have your book, is to read pages 25 and 26 real quick for me, silently. And when you're finished with the reading, complete this sentence stem. One benefit of using sentence stems in the classroom is, and if you would add that to the chat. I'm going to minimize this. There we go. And if,
Cam, do you
pardon?
mean page 25 and 26 in our book?
In your book, yes.
I feel like that's step 3 in my book. Maybe
Do you have this version? If you, Rhonda had the same problem. Her version was
yeah,
on a
I
different
got it.
page. If you need, in the Wakelet is the passage from page
Is
25.
that just the first 2 pages?
Let me see what it starts with. Page 25 and 26
This simple
are
at
the
50.
beginning of step 2.
Yeah. All right.
So it's the first page of step 2, first 2 pages of step 2.
Got it. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, Rhonda had that same problem this morning. So again, you're going to complete the sentence using this sentence stem. One benefit of using sentence stems in the classroom is, and then add that to the chat. Some of you are fast readers. Aha. Yeah, very good. So some of the responses we have so far is that it makes them more comfortable using academic language. It teaches them how to use formal academic language. The formal language structures for speaking and writing. It benefits the quality of interactions in our classroom, helps them increase their vocabulary and their confidence, helps use academic language more easily, helps them formulate their thoughts and have confident discussions, gives them a structured response. They will be able to link new words and new concepts, supports language development, builds confidence, and gives them a head start. All great answers, except for some of you did not use the sentence stem. So if I were doing this with my English learners, I would make you repeat it with the sentence stem, but we'll let you off. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on. What's the difference between a sentence stem and a sentence frame? Well, the sentence stem is always has a blank at the end. So you're giving the beginning of the sentence and they finish it. In a sentence frame, the blank can be anywhere. You're just leaving out a word or two within the sentence somewhere. So we use both with our English language learners. Mostly with the beginners, the newcomers, we use the sentence stems at first and then move into the sentence frames. Okay. So I have a question for you. If I were to tell you that a student in my class can read 80% of all of the text on the page with understanding and only missed 20% of the words, would you think they would be able to get the gist of the text that they read? I'll let you unmute.
The shoes look little.
What do you think?
No, it's just he had two pair there, and the ones you put on him this morning were dirty. No, they wouldn't be able to get the gist of the text with only understanding 80%.
So we have a no. Anyone disagree with that? It depends on the vocabulary they were comprehending. And this person says, I think they will. Okay, well, let's look into that a little bit more deeply.
No,
So,
okay.
if we're talking about text complexity, a beginning ESL student would probably be able to read
Oh,
these
oh,
words.
no, no.
And these words are 64% of the text. So they wouldn't be able to read 40% of the words. What do you notice about the words that you see here? What kind of words are those?
Sight words, high frequency words.
Yeah, high
No,
frequency words.
no, okay, no hitting.
Exactly.
Hey, hey, no. Owen,
Not just a minute here.
help me. This isn't funny.
Tammy, you make me a co-host.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll and find your name on the list, Rob.
Oh,
Hang on just a minute. There you are. There we go. Thank you, Rob.
Owen.
All right. So You're correct. These are high frequency words. Does this paragraph make sense as it's read here? Not really. I'm not going to get too much out of this, but I can read 60% of the words. Okay. Here's what an intermediate student might be able to read when they've gained a little bit more vocabulary. This gives you 80% of the words in the text. So again, if you read through that, they've added a few beginning vocabulary words like morning and very, let's see, person, some words you might learn early on or be able to sound out as you begin to understand the language. But there's still many words that are left out that is going to make this not totally comprehensible to the student at 82%. So my question about 80% of the words, this is what it would look like. So we might get kind of a general idea, but we're not going to understand the whole passage. And then if you're an advanced English learner, there may be only one word that you didn't understand. And even that one word makes this 95%. Okay. So our language is made up of about 2,000 high frequency words that cover 80% of any vocabulary in a text that you read. So that doesn't mean you're going to totally understand with 80% comprehension. In order to understand, students have to know about 90 to 98% of the text, the words in the text, to have understanding. And most people say you need about 95. And research has said that unless you know at least 90%, you won't understand. And if you don't understand, you're not learning. I found this chart several years ago, and again, it's linked in down below. And this gives you an idea of the proficiency level and the number of words that are learned in English at each proficiency level. So like at a level 1, by the end of level 1, they usually have about 500 new words in English. By level 2, it climbs to about 1,000. At level 3, maybe 3,000. And that's when you reach that 80% level towards the end of level 3. At level 4, we've climbed up to about 90%. And that was that level I said you have to have even the basic full understanding. Proficiency in English is between 4.7 and 5.2. Our cut score is 4.7 in Missouri. So when they get to level 5, they're at that 95%. So when they reach 4.7 or so, they're probably around that 95% when we exit them from the program. So this kind of gives you an idea of where they lay in that language acquisition, the number of words that they're learning and how they can understand the language. This comes from a brief that was put out by the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, USED. They said for sound literacy instruction for English learners, it has to emphasize oral language development. Those oral language skills contribute to their acquisition of both word and text level literacy in English, like vocabulary knowledge, awareness of cognates, listening comprehension, dialogue, and that dialogue influences the acquisition of literacy skills. So we have to have explicit and structured practice in oral language skills to build literacy skills. And if we don't build our oral language skills, then it's going to have a negative impact on literacy learning. So we always try to make sure that we start with oral language development, because when they can say the words and understand conversation, then that carries over into their writing, and that carries over into their ability to read those words. Okay, this is something from, I don't know if you're familiar with Elsa Cardenas-Hagen and her book, Literacy Foundations for English Learners. So she did a workshop, or she's doing a workshop with the Department of Education on literacy and English language learners. And she shared this in her first session. She said, you can use this formal language model and sample model in practice to get an idea of where your students are with their spoken language and their vocabulary and their comprehension of language. So what she said to do was collect 50 utterances. So she gave the students questions and waited for their response until she had 50 response words. Write down each utterance, count the number of words spoken per utterance, get that grand total and divide the total by 50. That gives you the mean length of the utterances that the student gives. And then look at their responses for the language needs that need to be addressed. And then develop a plan based on those needs. So this student was, I think she said, a first grader. And so she gave the questions, and you can see that most of the responses were 1 to 2 words. I don't think there were any more than 2-word responses. And so she looked at that, and then she looked at and my screen is off the screen here. Hang on just a minute. Okay, there we go. So there's a link at the bottom of the screen here for developmental milestones. You can look at this chart. You can look at any other developmental milestones that tell you how students develop with their language. And so she looked at that chart. There we go. And to see where the student fell on that. So 2-word utterances was like an age 2-3 skill. So she looks at the next step to see what they need next. And on that milestone chart, it says next they add in pronouns. So one thing she worked next with those students was to include a pronouns. I know like, or I don't like. I want book, or I like movie. So she likes movie. So adding in those pronouns was a next step. And then looking to the next level, it was to increase the sentence length to 4 to 6 word sentences. So she said that gave her a starting point with those students as they're developing language. I thought that was a good tool that you could use immediately with those non-English speakers, just to get an idea of where they are and what gives you some skills to set as goals as you're going through. So there is that. And again, there's a link to that there. So how can I ensure that students use complete sentences when they're talking, and how do we build those skills? Something you can do after you get moving with your students is to provide them opportunities to talk. That's what we said a moment ago. That comprehension, oral language is the key to developing all the other skills. And another way is to provide those sentence stems that we were talking about, and then coach for it. We have to explicitly teach that skill. As it says here, you have to teach the strategy to the students, you have to model it, and you have to explain when and why you should use it. So a good rule of thumb that has been given is that when you're introducing a new topic or a new question, something that you haven't discussed before, use a sentence stem if it's something important that you want the students to remember and be able to go back to. Provide the sentence stem, have the students help complete it, read it together, repeat it as many times as necessary, and then practice it throughout the lesson. So that gets it embedded in the student's memory. It helps build that vocabulary, and it becomes part of their understanding. So here are some examples of how you can use the sentence stems in different content areas. So we have some specific to different content areas. And then I've provided you with some general discussion sentence stems, like I think, I can infer, I would like to add. And my English learners got to where they were very good at using these sentence stems just in conversation in class, and because they knew it was expected. And I had one student that came back and told me, he goes, I feel so smart when I talk in class because I use these words. So they build their confidence, they make them feel good and like they can contribute and be part of the class. I also found this Spanish starters and connectors that I thought might be helpful to you. And this might make a good poster for the classroom. So it could give the students some understanding of some of the things you're expecting them to say. So that I wanted to share with you. Another great thing that you can do with sentence stems and sentence frames are these comparisons or contrasts. You could use a T-chart or you could use a Venn diagram like this. In comparison, they can say this and this are alike because, and they know they're going to be talking about the things in the middle, or the similarity between this and this are those things in the middle. And then they can know that the things that are contrasting, this and this, are different because. So giving them those extra words, it can sometimes be helpful for them to explain things like these graphic organizers. So now we're going to do an activity that I love. Is called the roving paragraph. And I tried to think of a way we could do this virtually. So we're going to try this out today. I want you to take a moment to think about what we've learned so far, like last time, this time, and write down on a piece of paper one idea that you can share. It could be about knowing the students, scaffolds, annotating, culture, their names, sentence frames, whichever thing that you want. But pick one idea and you're going to finish this sentence stem. I can ensure comprehensible input by. So I'm going to give you a moment to write that down. You're not going to share it in chat this time, but just complete that sentence for now. All right, and I need to see, we have 26 participants. So what you're going to do next is open up the chat and then select a direct message. So you're going to pick on this list that I have here. I think I have everyone. If I didn't put your name on here, let me know and I'll add it. But what I'd like for you to do is find your name, pick the person directly under you, and you're going to send them your sentence in a direct message. Okay, Riley, I'll add you. Hang on just a minute. Back to that slide. All right, so I'll add Riley right here. All right.
And Christina.
And Christina, is it Christina with a K or a C? I can't see my chat.
Christina with a C, and then you're gonna do Angela also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Christina and Angela.
Let me move that up. All right. All right. So write your sentence, then in chat, send a direct message to the person just below you and share your sentence. So if we were in a classroom, we would do a stand up, hand up, pair up, and the students would find another partner and orally share their sentence with each other. Okay. So after you've written your sentence, you're sharing. If we were in a classroom, they would orally share. And then we'll be ready for the next step. So after you've sent your sentence, now everyone should have received a sentence. So on your piece of paper, you're going to complete this sentence stem. So you're going to borrow your partner who just shared with you sentence and complete this. I can also help students by. So whatever was shared with you, add it to this sentence stem. I can also help students by. Okay, so when you get that written, I'll give you a moment. I need to come back here and copy this.
I messed up. Can I see that name list? Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Got it? Okay. I can also help students by. And then you're going to go, I'm going to change this and add the new one. You're going to go to the next person down the list and send them your original sentence. Okay. You can send, if we were doing this with students in the classroom, we give them the option of sharing their original sentence or sharing one of their new sentences. But in this instance, I'm going to have you share your original sentence with a new person. Okay. So share your original person with your original sentence with the next person down the list. All right. When you receive that new sentence, you're going to complete this sentence stem. In addition, I could. So take your new information and finish this sentence. In addition, I could. Or if the sentence is the very same as yours, you can create a new idea to finish this one. So we give the students that option as well. So if this person shares a sentence with you that's exactly like yours, you have the option of creating a new idea and recording it to finish this sentence. All right. After you finish that, you're right. We're going to do it one more time. So let me put the new list here. So after you've written that sentence, pick the next person down our list and send them your first sentence. So this is to emulate if we were in the classroom after they've written their new sentence, they would hands up, pair up, and then find a new person, orally share their sentences with each other, and then they'll complete the next sentence stem with their new sentence that they borrow from their new friend. And then usually we go back to back and wait to trade again. So back to back is our signal that they're ready to move on to the next one. All right. So with your new sentence, now you're going to say, finally, I know. So use your new information to finish this sentence stem.
Tammy, I'm so sorry. It's been a really long day. Would you be able to like share on the screen the stems?
Oh, all of them together?
No, just the one that you want us to do now. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up, but I wasn't able to type as fast.
Okay. So
On this last one, please.
the,
I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm
the
sorry.
one before was in addition, I could.
Oh, no, sorry. The one you want us to do right now, you said finally.
Finally, I know. And then finish with what your partner just shared with you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you should have 4 sentences now. All right, and now you should have a complete paragraph. So like I said, in a classroom, you would use that hands up, pair up, or something similar. Have the students orally share their sentences with each other, and then go on to the next partner. Share again, write their sentence with a new prompt, and then as many times as you want to rotate, usually 4 to 5 times, and then they have a complete sentence. So, would anyone like to share their complete paragraph? Okay, Rob put, I can ensure comprehensible input by annotating my learning objective. In addition, I could use visuals for key vocabulary. Finally, I know to provide multiple exposures to new language. Okay. So again, if we're doing this with a class and following the in-person procedure, it allows for listening because you're listening to your partner read. It allows for speaking because you're reading your sentence. It allows for reading because you read the prompt and then you read your response. And writing because you're writing in response to each prompt. You're also writing your partner's sentence each time. The great thing about this is it doesn't give away any answers. The stems just help our students, our English learners, to have the language that they need. It provides structure for students' output, both in speaking and writing, because they're orally sharing their sentences. They're writing the sentences. It gives them the sentence frames to use that help them internalize the information and the academic structure of the language. It lowers that affective filter because you're providing them with some of the language they need when they're talking about it. And it also increases the rigor of the lesson because the students are having to justify, compare, contrast, and explain. And it does take a little bit, but you're pairing your English learners with all of the students in the class. Their sentence may only be a few words. It may be one word added to it, but they're contributing. And then when they go to the next person, they're only having to share their one small sentence. And it lets them be involved and engaged in the lesson. At the same time, they're having practice speaking, they're listening to their partner, they're copying the language and hearing their partner read the sentence to them. In some instances, we have the students read all of the sentences. If you have a large class, they can read all of the sentences they've gathered so far, and the other student can select which one they want to add to their list. So there are different ways you can use this, but this is one of our favorite activities because it does involve all 4 modalities, and it also gives them a nice review of the lesson that you did for the day, and it helps to internalize what you were talking about. And it gives them something to take home.
Cami.
Yes, Rob.
So Angelica in the chat was saying she likes it. It might take her a minute to do with some of her newcomers. I just want to say I've had other kind of teachers talk about, like, I have kindergartners. I don't know if kindergartners could do this quite yet. I think it's possible. I think it takes extra scaffolding. I think you would.
Sure.
I might suggest you might type up your sentence starters and have them pre-written for the students.
Yes.
You'd like track the print and read them aloud to the students.
Yes.
You might brainstorm some responses as a class first. So you're kind of on an anchor chart, kind of putting what are different responses we might do to this, and so then they're kind of picking one off of a chart.
Right.
But so yeah, I recognize some kids' literacy level is not going to be ready to write out complete sentences.
Right. And that's
But
what my examples here on the slide are. So you might have this already created for them and hand it to the students. You might have it posted on the board. So I meant to mention that, Rob. Thank you. So you can do things like this and have them pre-prepared for the student.
And even add the vocabulary that you want them to fill and let them pick the word that it can go on those sentences with the visual for the newcomers. So they see the word, they see a picture, and they make that connection. So you provide those words that should be on the link, and they pick one out of the three so that they matched together the sentence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are all kinds of scaffolds that you can add depending on the needs of your student.
I would also say when you're doing the paragraph frames, what you're teaching kids like transitions from one sentence to the next,
Mm-hmm.
and pointing out things like where I say finally, and then I put a comma. So being really explicit about like, hey, let's notice that when I say in addition, I then do a comma, or kind of pointing out those sort of grammatical pieces.
Exactly, yes. Again, we use this like almost weekly sometimes with our students, just getting them used to the language, getting them used to speaking in sentences, but it provides them with that scaffolding that they need to be able to do so. All right. This video, again, shows you the use of the complete sentences in a classroom and gives you an idea of what that looks like in an educational setting. This is your homework to watch that and use some of the tips that she provides in your classroom in the coming weeks. And I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to move on. So what I like about our book, and hopefully you've noticed that in the last part of each chapter, it gives you some of the frequently asked questions that they received when they first started implementing this. The ones I always like to look at is what does the research say about this? And in this instance, it says that in order for students to use content language accurately, they have to be practicing it and speaking and writing. They have to hear it multiple times in many contexts. And when they practice speaking in complete sentences, it provides a means for them to hear content area vocabulary used by the teacher and by their peers. So it gets them speaking, it increases their listening, and it's just great all around. And then the other question I like is, do we expect them to use complete sentences all the time? Well, we don't use complete sentences all the time when we're speaking. The expectation should be when we're asking questions directly during whole group discussion, or when we're trying to emphasize a point or remember a concept, we might provide it to solidify that learning and to make sure that they understand those words in context. So there's a time and a place for it. And then how does it work? We have to make sure that we explicitly teach the process, give examples, model it, and support them as they're learning all the way through. It helps them to structure their responses. And the thing is, after you've done it for a while, the students start to pick up on it, and you'll notice that they start speaking in more developed sentences. We can incorporate things to help them with the type of sentence that we want them to produce in the classroom. All right, so that was the last slide of our presentation today. And what we're going to do now is just open it up to any questions you might have. I'm going to stop this share so that I have you on the screen. So anything that we can answer for you as far as a question at this point? Bring this screen down.
I was just thinking to myself, if a student didn't want to, if they gave me a short answer, just a one-word answer, and then I asked them, could you give me that in a complete sentence or something? Or I pointed at the sentence frame and asked them to, and let's say they didn't want to do that, then I would go back to our step one and I would ask them to tell me something off the poster, right? So I think recognizing there's a connection between step two, I'm expecting complete sentences. If a student doesn't want to get the complete sentence or is feeling like they're shutting down when I'm asking that, then prompting them to, oh, could you tell me you need more time? Could you tell me you need extra help? Could you tell me you want to talk to a partner? So again, kind of like if you're not ready for step two, let's go back to step one. What can I do to give you some more support?
And Amelia's asking, one of the tips is to let them whisper their response to you. Um, so yeah, in the beginning, you might let them do that, but we're wanting them to build their confidence. And I think by providing the frames and letting them know this is going to help you give a sentence, they get more confident in providing an answer. And so you might say, well, this time I'm going to let you. Next time we're going to say it together. So we're all going to say it out loud. I'd like to hear you say it with the rest of us. And then slowly maybe you're going to say it with a partner, and then we'll work to where now it's your turn to say it by yourself. So give them a couple of times to practice it and slowly wean the partners and the group response to just them saying it by themselves.
Jennifer had a question.
It's not really a question. I just was gonna say, um, I think sometimes I know this like intellectually that they need to speak in complete sentences, but I get into like we got to cover this material and so sometimes I struggle with like the time management stuff and like okay, we got the correct answer, let's keep going rather than giving them a chance and taking that time and slowing it down for them. And I really especially need to remember that because being at a newcomer center where they are all newcomers, they are all learning these structures. So I was just gonna comment that, yeah, it takes time, but like even myself, I need to remember to take that time and that it really does like pay off in the end.
Yes, and you can use something like this to teach that content that you need to get across that day, breaking it up into parts and just building in discussion points where they get to talk throughout the day. So yeah, it does take planning and it does take being deliberate in what you're going to do. Thank you for that, Jennifer. Any other thoughts?
I mean, not to talk too much, but I'm going to talk too much.
Go for it, Rob.
I just, so what Jennifer just said, and then what you were saying about the research about, so giving kids multiple, and I think in the book it was something like, what are the common denominators of whatever and whatever, and like if a kid just says 12 and 7, then if I'm like new to English and I'm kind of just barely following along what's going on, and the 12 and 7, I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what that was. But to hear, oh, the common denominators are 12 and 7 to get that extra exposure to that vocabulary and clarification of what we're doing. I think it's a lot of those little things add up over time. So yeah, to Jennifer's point, definitely time consume. I mean, you spend a little bit extra time, but to everyone's benefit, we're being really clear and we're encouraging more language use and giving
and solidifying that vocabulary by frequent using it. You're frequently using it, yes. Any other thoughts? More questions? Rob, you use roving paragraph in a lot of your presentations. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I do too. It's one of my favorite tools. And I did put a link to an article on the use of roving paragraphs that might be helpful.
I think just in general, like one is we set the expectation we want complete sentences. Two is I'm always going to give you either a sentence stem or a sentence frame to help you do that. If you want to use that support, use that support. If you'd rather write your own sentence, we're going to allow for that also. And then always like, I'm going to read the sentence frame aloud. If you're with newcomers, especially like being like, let's echo read it, right? So I'll read it aloud. And the second time, let's echo read it. and then now I want you to go ahead and share with your partner using that frame. But this sort of like tracking the print and reading it aloud and having students echo read it, it goes a long way. It's always so all this stuff comes from Sidelets, and the Sidelets consultants are always talking about tracking the print and reading it aloud and having students echo read it with you. So anyway.
There's I know Ryan used the disappearing sentence too with this. So he would have them finish the sentence and then take off the last word and have them remember what that last word, and then take off the next to the last word and take off another word until the student could say the whole sentence with just like the first letter of the word in the whole sentence to help them remember how to read it. So after they got a little bit better, we did the disappearing sentence and gets them remembering the words and the order of the words and the structure of the sentence.
Oh, that one, I like that.
All right, my friends, for next time, it's chapter 3. What is chapter 3? Randomize and rotate when calling on students. So we'll do that for November. Again, I have a question. Okay, I have a question about classroom visits. Good thing to ask about. If you work at Rittner and have all newcomers, we have a crazy schedule and staff. We are not sure if we would be able to get 4 classroom visits complete within 60 minutes. Yeah, so we could do like a morning and an afternoon. You can have 2 times on that visit. That's fine. Yeah, we can have more than one group during the day. It doesn't have to be just one time. You're finished at 1:15. Well, it could be 2 days because we've got multiple days. We just don't want to go from Kansas City to St. Louis in the same day. So if you want to schedule 2 days, that's fine.
And Cameron, like you mentioned earlier, we can't do the visits and schedule them all on the 60-minute block, but we're going
Yes.
to observe 15 minutes each teacher. So we don't have to
Right.
do the observation for the whole 60-minute or 90-minute.
Right. Yeah, we're not planning to come and watch a complete lesson. We're not going to stay there for an hour and watch you do the whole lesson. We're just doing a drop-in. And hopefully we'll see you doing using those questioning strategies where you don't let them off the hook, where we're making them speak in complete sentences using those sentence stems. So we're just going to drop in for 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes at a time, watch you do a part of your lesson, then walk out. And then however your district or your school wants to do the visit afterwards, you could do it. We could do it as a group, or you could do it one-on-one with us. We'll let you kind of to figure out how you want to do that, and we'll go with whatever works best for you. So it shouldn't take a whole day for us to do it. Again, they're just going to be really short drop-ins, observations, and then discussions afterwards. Unless you'd like for us to demonstrate something, and then we can do a really short demonstration for you as well. Does that help? But yeah, we're not doing like an hour-long watching one person at a time. It's just going to be short and sweet. Okay. So don't forget to go in and sign up for a classroom visit. And we're going to ask that you might add who's going to, what teachers are going to be involved in that classroom visit for us. So I think I'll turn on comments on the sign up page where you can leave a comment and tell us what teachers are going to be included in that visit. So we'll get an idea of how long we need to stay. Okay. Again, this is a work in progress. It's new to us too. So we'll work out the kinks hopefully this first month, and it'll go more smoothly from here.
And I just want to add, like Cameron mentioned, we can model for you. So if you'd rather have us model, let us know ahead of time, like email us, and we'll plan the lesson
Right.
15 minutes to model instead of doing the observation, but just send an email with heads up so that way we plan accordingly to it and we have whatever you need. I just want to
Mhm.
reiterate, we're here to provide support, not to give you stress for you.
Mhm. Okay. There aren't any other questions. That's it for today, guys, and we will see you at your classroom visit. Thank you for being here.